record, so we are recording. I am going to edit some of it, and really all I'm going to edit is if we have like, I don't know, a bunch of downtime or I forget what to say or some other
Okay.
things that happen or whatever. Do I sound all right for you and all that?
Yeah, you sound great.
All right. May have to do a few of these intros just because I get a little bit nervous, not going to lie. All
It's
right.
okay.
Hi, this is Alex from the Millennial Entrepreneur. I'm here with one of my best friends, Lucas Patrick. He's currently playing for the Packers. We grew up together, going to high school, played football and rugby together. He went off to play at Duke University and went on to the Packers. So, hey, Lucas, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Good to be here. Good to see you. Good to hear you. I'm excited to sit down and talk for a little bit.
Good, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I just wanted to start off with a piece talking about, you've gone through high school football, college football, the NFL. You've done really well at each level. And I'd just like if you could take a minute talking about like how mentally you went into maybe high school, where you were at mentally, kind of how you were taking football seriously and how that evolved into college, and then now where you are at the NFL.
Yeah, good question. So this really all dates back to kind of my sophomore year in high school when bunch of I feel like that's when a bunch of boys or men, whatever you want to call, guys at the age of 16, 17, feel like they need to find something that they're really good at or find something that really drives them or that they enjoy. And at the time, I loved playing football with my buddies who I had just known from high school or whatever, playing t-ball or, middle school and all that. And I walked up to my offensive line coach, Jay Gore, who you probably remember.
Yeah, he was a
Um,
legend.
yeah. And I just told him, I was like, hey, man, like, not hey, man. I was like, hey, I really want to be good at this. And like, I kind of want to play college football. Like, I feel like this is something I'm good at. Like, it was like a turning point where I felt like something that I could bring value to, or something
Yeah.
that I felt like I was meant for. And one of the, like, I'll never forget this, but he looked me square in the face and said, "You're too soft and you don't work hard enough."
Oh, man.
And yeah, and it's which is like tough to hear, as
Yeah.
I think I was 15 at the time. He's a sophomore,
Mm-hmm.
and to hear a coach say that, and I've done pretty okay. I was a big kid, playing well, but he realized that for me to take the next step and to elevate my game to get to the college level, that I would
Mm-hmm.
have to change and approach how I played at the high school level in a different way. So that was pretty cool. I think, like, looking back at the time, it was tough.
Yeah.
When you think you're good at something and then to hear you're not good enough to possibly do what you want to do.
Yeah. Kind of kick in the teeth that
But
maybe you felt like you
the cool
needed
part
it.
about
Yeah.
yeah, which I'm all for. Like, I think everyone sometimes needs a kick in the teeth, but the difference was Coach Gore was willing to take the steps with me.
Mm-hmm.
And um, my sophomore and junior year, I would actually go during some lunchtime and we'd sit and watch film, and he'd help me with some math work because I wasn't good at math. And um, his biggest advice was, look, if we're gonna go all out on this and you're gonna train, do everything right, we're gonna watch film, we're gonna do stuff, but you better have good enough grades so that you can choose a school and a school doesn't choose you.
Mm-hmm.
It's, because we've known thousands of kids who super talented or have something special about them to go somewhere, but just didn't do the right things in either their community or classroom to just make those opportunities available to them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there's a couple people that we grew up to, and you see them in high school, and you look at them, you're like, wow, that guy has a lot of potential and he could really
Yeah.
do something awesome. But then, maybe the work ethic isn't there, or maybe just like what you're saying, the school or the grades isn't there, and just for whatever reason, it doesn't work out and they can't go to the school that they want to grow.
Yeah. And I think, a big contributor was that I had a person willing to I had a person who's was willing to be in the trenches with me, as to say,
Yeah.
or some, I mean, a coach who cared enough about his players that he was going to help me to achieve a dream, but let alone help me develop a, good habits and a good lifestyle that
Yeah.
could carry me pretty much up until now. I mean, I've taken from other coaches here and there, but I think that moment was such a pivotal moment to get to where I'm at right now, in the
Hmm.
sense of it. I was told I wasn't good enough, but I wasn't good enough with a plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's he kind of knocked you down, but he built you back up.
yeah,
It's not like he just said negative things. He said, "This is my honest opinion, and I'm going to help you."
and I think this is something that's, you know, not to play the old wise man card or whatever, but I think sometimes people don't like hearing like the news that I heard at one time. I
Yeah.
was too soft and I didn't work hard enough. I think some people would have taken that
They would have
and been like,
ran.
well,
They
yeah,
would
no,
never
or
done it
written
again.
this
Yeah.
guy off like, hey, this guy's, you know, an asshole, or this guy's
Yeah.
whatever, as opposed to, okay, what does he really mean? Hey, why don't we do this? Let's take this step. And I think it's also a good lesson for myself, to have experiences like that with people, to then, me to hopefully be able to turn around to somebody who can see me where I'm at, or I can instill something in them and just say, hey, like, this is what it takes. It's not easy. It's
Yeah.
going to be hard, but if you stick with it and you have a plan, I'll ride it out with you. Like, I'll start you off on this journey, and hopefully it can take you to where you're literally fulfilling your dreams, whether that's playing in the NFL, starting a business, whether it's starting a family,
Hmm.
whether it's traveling the world. I mean, there's becoming starting a nonprofit or a politician. There's plenty of things that people can do to change the world. I think sometimes when people hear things that say, it's going to be tough and you're not cut out for it right now, but we can get you there.
Yeah.
I think people are sometimes afraid to run through those walls.
Yeah, and that's something when I was putting all this together, like the website and some of those things, some people had mentioned, the about page that I had needs to be sorted out, and I totally agree on that. But one of the key pillars that I wanted to put in there was, you know, it's I forget the exact term, but it's almost like brutal honesty, or it's constructive criticism with like motivation behind it. It's like I feel like the true path to success is having people around you that will tell you when you suck, but will also tell you how you can get better, and not
Yeah.
tell you that you suck in like a negative way to where it's like, because you can get to a real dark point with that, like you
Mhm.
can really hurt people with that. But if you tell it to them in a way where it's like, look, this is the way it is, but here's how we're going to get better. That, in my opinion, is critical. And I attribute that to just sports and watching film. In film, there's some coaches that go a bit too far, but most of the time, coaches are just saying, look, you missed this block or you missed this tackle. You need to spend more time tackling or in this
Mhm.
situation to get better. And that's where I attribute it from. But
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and that's a great analogy, because I sometimes, my wife gets mad at me because sometimes I call things too black and white, or I see things too
oh
black
yeah.
and white, and this world is a very gray world. There's a lot of different factors
Hmm.
that can sometimes affect a person's decision, but at the end of the day, it's like having good friends that say, hey, you didn't do this right, or you didn't do this, whatever. Now I get that there's contributing factors that caused you not to get to that point. So let's work on that. And I think kind of what you're saying is in the constructive or in the criticism, but it's okay to be black and white and say,
Yeah.
hey, that didn't make it, or that didn't cut it. In the same way in the film example, like my whole profession is black and white. I
Yeah.
like we just played the San Francisco 49ers and rebounded, won a
Which
game after
is
two,
amazing to be able to say, Lucas, in
yeah,
general, but
yeah. So last year they got us twice. So it's,
yeah,
we were coming out there with a mission and we won. Teams riding high, but we go into our film session and there's probably, out of the 60, 70 plays, I probably had 12 black and white that just sucked. It
sure.
just is what it is. But it's taking that, it's hearing like, hey, you didn't get the job done and here's why, but let's work
Yeah.
on the why. Kind of what you're saying, like, you know,
You know
being
what
being able
I've
to take
seen.
the constructive criticism in a way that helps you get better.
Yeah. What I've seen with some of the people I work with, um, they're employees of mine, but I'll work with them and I'll ask them to do something, or we'll have an SOP that's a certain way, and I'll walk through the facility and I'll see that it wasn't done right. And they'll kind of look at me, and there's like a moment where I can say something or not, kind of like a decision at that point. And then later on, like let's say I don't say anything, later on they'll kind of act strange towards me, and the air gets cleared whenever I say it, because they're like expecting it. And if I
Mm-hmm.
don't go through it and I don't tell them like, hey, we have a standard that we set and we meet this standard, and this is why our quality is good, just because we're in like food manufacturing, but our clients or our final end customer, we want to keep the highest sense of quality. We want to, that's just what we're all about. And you not following this SOP is just kind of taking a notch out of what we're doing. And I feel I think, you and I have always gotten along pretty well. And I think a part of that is because I think we agree on that. I think
Yeah.
it's like one of our pillars that we agree on. That's like, if you come up to me and you're telling me a legitimate thing that I may have seen in my own self, but wasn't like, didn't have the courage or whatever to really address it, then, I think we communicate well and it makes sense to us. Like we aren't
Yeah.
offended if you say
It's
that,
an
and other
it's an
people may.
appreciation because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
somebody saying, hey, like, yeah, you're trying to do something, you didn't do it right, but
Yeah.
you could do it better if you tried this. And it's
Exactly.
appreciation because
Yep.
it's you can take that input and apply it to your standard, whether it's at work or life. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, you talking about a standard in work, like legitimate real life. And, the game that we get to play, the kids game that we get to play on Sundays, get paid way too much money for. We talk all the time about living
Yeah.
up to playing to a standard.
Yeah.
That's like, it's such an interesting conversation because it's easy to say, but it's tough to follow
It
through
is.
in
Yeah.
work, in life, because
Mm-hmm.
when you're riding high, like when you just sign on to a job, yes, it's easy to say that I'm going to adhere to the standard of,
Yep.
filling out all my paperwork correctly, always sending the right stuff to HR, or
Yeah.
following the actual stuff. Or for me, like actually showing up and giving 100% every day.
Mm-hmm. When
But
what is that saying? Like, what are you doing when no one's looking?
yeah,
Type thing. Yeah.
but I think if I'm being honest, I think it's virtually impossible if you set your standards high enough to meet
Mm-hmm.
them.
Yeah.
But I firmly believe that striving with everything you have to try and get to a lofty standard is the goal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like how people talk about the path of life and they want, like, I want to get to the point where my 401k is fully vested or fully
Mm-hmm.
loaded. I want to get to the point where I can retire. I want to get to the point where I have my kids' college funds paid for. I want to get to, the CEO position. I want to get the best player in my position.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people forget about all the steps that you go to get to that, and the journey and the process, and these standards that you have along the way, that's really striving to get to that goal is like the end goal. If you go to, like,
Mm-hmm.
do you get what I'm saying? Like,
No, absolutely.
it's not getting there,
It's the journey.
the yeah.
I was listening to Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank today. The guy who's, kind of the downer of the
Bald
group.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget his name, but he was talking about, if you're in it, if you're an entrepreneur to make money, you already lost money because you're not going to have the motivation. He's like, if you're an entrepreneur because it's your passion and that's what you're good at and that's what you love to do, then you're going to be much more successful than someone that's just going out there to try and make money. And he was like, your career is short if you're just trying to make money because, say an entrepreneur, you make a couple $100,000 or $1 million, you can live off of like $5 million. This is what he said. He's like, you can live off $5 million for your entire life. And you can do
Mm-hmm.
very well at that. And it's like you could get there and stop, and that's fine. But like extremely successful entrepreneurs get there, but that's not how they got there. You know what I mean? And I even, the NFL side, you were saying you get to kind of play a kid's game at an extremely high level. I was thinking about this interview, and I was, trying to find the synergies with the NFL and businesses and entrepreneurship or things like that. And one of the reasons why I asked that first question I asked was because, you know, you're going in, and at each different level, it's almost like a company. You have your first company in high school and it's small and it's, there's not a lot of money
Local and
being passed around
yeah.
or things happening. And then now you go to college, but also like you're almost going to investor meetings, which are critical for companies to grow. So like you go to these coaches and it may not be as structured as like an investor, looking for investors, but you're looking for people to believe in you, which is
Mm.
all you're doing in a company looking for investment. And then you go to the NFL and now you got, you know, they're still investors, they're probably much more qualified or, however that plays out in that terminology, but you're still going to these people and you're saying, hey, I can bring this company value. And as a player, in my opinion, that's what you're doing. You're bringing the company or, the Packers value every time you go onto the field. And that is, in my opinion, something people get stuck up with. Like you could have gone from college to the NFL and in the meeting with your coaches, like not done well there and maybe not have gotten the opportunity, or maybe if it's for you showing yourself on a field or
Mm-hmm.
things like that. But for you to show up to an NFL anything and do well is extremely impressive. Like the amount of anxiety or the amount of, stress you may have felt, like it would be crippling to most people just to go out there and do it.
Yeah, I mean, we always make it certain jokes, but like really to put it into business terms, each player that gets drafted or selected to be on the team, we're like a new fancy Corvette, or we're like a new microprocessor
Yeah.
that's even more advanced than the person, because for me to have a job, I have to take someone else's job.
Yeah.
For someone to succeed me, they have to take my job. So
Mm-hmm.
it's this natural evolution, and the same as business, that you know competition will drive the product to become better and better and better. And that's why NFL players are getting, you're seeing guys like DK Metcalf just
Good
super
Lord.
freakishly big, fast, strong, and
Oh
but
my
like
God.
it's pushing the game to new
Yeah.
heights and new levels. And eh, like there is this pressure, there is this anxiety of like, and it's probably the same as an entrepreneur. have no understanding of what it would be like to go out on my own and start a business. But I do understand the fact that if I don't succeed, or if I don't keep showing improvements, or if I don't keep making myself more marketable,
Mm-hmm.
or keep making myself look shiny and new, and like I'm performing like I should, I'm going to get replaced immediately,
Yeah.
because these coaches aren't just there for you to have a good time. They're there, the GMs, the owners, they're there to make money. They're
Yeah.
like, they are the entrepreneurs at the very tip top. And if they're coaches who are, pretty much are like R&D and, making us better and perform better, that's
Yeah.
like R&D, and we're the final end product. And if we don't
Mm-hmm.
come out on Sundays and perform up to the expectations or up to the standards, there's going to be a review process of why that didn't happen. And if it continues to happen, as any business person would do, instead of wasting money on an asset that is hindering the business, you throw it away, you sell it off, you do
Mm-hmm.
whatever, you bring in another one. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so interesting to think of the NFL and players because we are commodities. We are what makes the league go.
Mm-hmm.
We are also what pushes each of us to not have a job, because each next line is trying to beat out the person in front of them. So like you know, there's the old, like, if you look at football in the 1960s and look at it now, it looks like a different game, but that's because each iteration of or generation of players that comes out has a different, they're starting from a further point, because they get to see what the 60s players did. So the 70s players get to, hey, this is what they did and this is what made him succeed.
Mm-hmm.
It's this crazy, you know, cycle of just churning guys in and churning guys out, just trying to keep the product,
Mm-hmm.
trying to protect the shield, as they say in the locker room.
Yeah, it's amazing to me to look at the way athletics has transformed in America to become a legit business.
Yeah.
I've seen, just because, playing rugby, I've seen some other sports, or maybe rugby overseas, or soccer, or some of these other, cricket maybe. Um, and there's no real other sport that's like, in other countries, that is the NFL. And I think that's just America's drive for businesses, like to create a business. Like in other countries, I look at international rugby players, and then I look at NFL players, and I'm just like, good Lord, they're so much more polished
Hmm.
in the
Well,
NFL.
and uh, to compare it to businesses, like, a business sector does well, or at least in our free market economy, because we limit monopolies,
Mm,
and we allow for, I can't think of the word, but it's like, everyone has a fair chance
mm-hmm.
for their business to make it.
They spread
And
the market share out, so there's
yeah,
more players in the
exactly.
game.
So what makes the NFL so amazing is the parity of it, that any team can win on any given Sunday
Yeah.
across the board. Yes, you've got your teams that have struggled in the last few years. You've got your teams that are, everyone think is a foregone conclusion to win. But across the board, the product is so good and so polished and so well put together that any team can actually win any Sunday. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the model in the revenue sharing the NFL has, and salary caps, and what, there's teams like the Kansas City Chiefs now who look like they have the most, loaded offense you could argue ever,
Mm.
but they have such a short window to capitalize on it, because there's cap space, there's player contracts, there's so many other variances as to how long they can keep that nucleus together.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to change subjects a little bit, so just you know, with going into as much detail as you're comfortable, you'd gone from, you know, being a college player, you know, where you don't make a ton of money in college, you know, to going into a successful NFL player. What kind of tools have you used to help manage that transition, or maybe to, you know, cap your own spending, or just to find a healthy balance for you? Um,
Yeah, man. So I remember in college, like I would have to, as soon as we got our scholarship check, I'd have to write my rent check like for a few months ahead because that's how bad I was at managing my money. So like it was like I'd walk into the leasing office. I'm like, hey, if you want your $1,200 for the next 4 months rent, you better take it now because it may not be there, and they always would. So then, you know, I think I learned a tough lesson too. My first year being on the practice squad, I think my salary was 115,000, maybe 120,
mhm.
which is amazing money to make. But there were some expenses that I just completely didn't even think about, like the whole off season. I'm not getting a paycheck, and I'm paying for my training, my food, my living.
Oh yeah.
Um, so like my first year, I did not spend my money well. Um, granted, I made good money, but I spent it on like at the time the place I was training, it was like $70 a session, and I did 2 sessions a day. Um, so was that 100? You know, that's what, $600-700 a week, whatever that adds up
Man,
to. Um, you know,
that's a
easily,
lot of money.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and you know, trying to keep my body right, getting massage and like all these other things. And I actually rolled into camp my second year with like it's not a lot of money. Like I was like, I gotta make this team, otherwise
A little
I'm
extra
gonna be working at
motivation outside.
McDonald's down the street flipping some burgers. No, but once I finally made the team and started making legitimate active
hmm
roster NFL money. So my first year was 465.
That's awesome.
And this is all public online. So you know anyone can look this up.
Sure.
What I did was after the first check, paid off a truck that I bought. My another bad expense, my practice squad year, thought I had a lot of money. Went out and bought
Was
a
it that
nice.
Raptor?
No, not the Raptor I
Oh,
have now.
not the
That's
Raptor.
I
Yeah.
waited. I waited till I had enough money for that. It was
There you go.
another, yeah, 2 cars. But bought a, like it was like a $35,000 used F-150, like 2 or 3 years old, super
Yeah.
nice, making payments like. Um, so, anyways, I paid that off in 2017, and then I got hooked up with a financial advisor from one of
hmm
the guys I trained with, and I live on a monthly stipend. I get a set amount, so my check comes in from the Packers, and then whatever it goes right into my investment accounts, my
hmm
long term, my don't touch, can't mess this up investment accounts that are just, you know, matching the S&P. We're taking low risk. We're
hmm
playing the long game.
Yep.
Um, but I get a stipend every month, and then when I started making this money, I wanted to, uh, do some charitable stuff. So each month, at the first of every month, uh, the X amount of money comes out and goes just directly to a charity that I donate to.
Oh, really? I
Um,
didn't know that.
yeah, so it's first priority. It's a nonprofit that um, kind of bridges the gap of church and school.
Mm.
It's student led groups where they can come in with their, because since it's student led, faith is allowed to be talked about, and
Mm.
they come in and they spread the hope and love of Christ to their fellow students, like at lunch meetings and homeroom meetings. Um, and it's the one thing I appreciate about it is I think schools are a tough place to be at in today's society.
hmm
I mean, we've seen all the sad things happen in
Yeah.
the last 5-10 years. And two, I know that's a formative time, and I had, you know, some really good mentors look out for me then and help me on my journey
Yeah, I was
with
about to
faith.
mention that I think that's a special place for you because I think that really helped guide, your
Hmm.
mentality when you were younger. Um,
Yeah. So yeah, so that's I had that come out, and then um, yeah, first check goes to the donation. The next day, automatically withdraw my mortgage, and then the rest is just I'm saving a bunch right now. Hopefully,
yeah,
have some college funds paid for kids.
nice. Good for you, man.
Yeah.
It's. I was gonna ask if the NFL helped provide any type of financial training or any because it's got to be somewhat of a shock. You
Yeah, no,
if
they do. I mean,
yeah
we go through tons of rookie seminars and all this stuff, and like all this pretty much don't throw away your money.
yeah
A lot of it's good. A lot of it is you could find it on a Wikipedia page. I hate to say it,
oh
but
just basic kind of
yeah, just like
yeah
input all like max out your 401k. You
yeah
know, don't give thousands of dollars to family and friends. You know, don't gamble.
yeah don't go out and buy two cars.
Yeah, yeah, don't do what I did.
Well, no, that's awesome. It's and one way to translate it, to the entrepreneurship side is, you always wonder, you're always trying to make money as an entrepreneur. That's, it's not the ultimate goal, but you are trying to make money, to expand or grow. But,
Hmm.
once you have made money, a lot of people sit and look around and they're like, oh my God, what, what, what do I do with this now? Like
Yep.
what is a good decision? What is a bad decision? I've been scraping by for so long and now I've got this huge influx of cash. Say maybe you got bought out. What do you do now? And, some of the stuff I've talked about with some of the people I work with is, you should always be gauging for that next step. You should always be at least have a good relative plan of, say we hit the lottery, say the company fails, say this happens. We have a general idea of what we'll do if those things happen. Like, it's not built out to the T, that's a bit too much, but at least, like, let's say, COVID hits and we're shut down. What do we do? Well, we have a general idea of what we'll do. Let's say we hit the lottery. What are we going to do? Are we going to buy another factory? Are we going to expand? And it's like, well, no, we just kind of almost, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called the porcupine approach. So
Mm-mm.
the porcupine approach is, it's an idea. I learned it from LinkedIn Learning, but it's, in a company, you have a business plan, right? And you kind of have your core set of beliefs. The companies that succeed are the ones that generally are ones that have a porcupine approach. They have a general set of principles, and every decision they ever make is gauged by their core set of principles. So if their idea is to be, say, a distributor of X material, any decision they make, will it progress our idea to distribute that set material? If it's not, then we don't do it. And so the porcupine piece is kind of, you're poking out kind of bad ideas to try and stay focused. But that's I don't
Hmm.
know. I really like that, so I try and incorporate it.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's probably the scariest thing for any football player to think about is moving on. Like whereas like the opposite of an entrepreneur who always is I think has that spirit of planning for the next step.
hmm
NFL players are so afraid of the next step that we will do anything to stay in the step we're at, which is in the NFL.
Oh, that's a very different view. That's interesting. Yeah.
It's we have structure, we have uh, security, we have
Mm-hmm.
stable income, we have, like, all these things. Like, you got to, like, an entrepreneur who gets to a point where his business is bought out, that his gamble's paid off, but his
Mm-hmm.
gamble might have paid, there's some entrepreneurs who make it at 25, 30, but there's some who are later in their life, they can live off it. Us,
Yeah,
our gamble is up at 32 if you're lucky. For most guys, it's 26.
man.
You can't, after 26, you can't just be like, that was my gamble. I didn't hit big, but I hit. So it's kind
Yeah,
of
I've never thought of it like that, It's
yeah.
almost like in the entrepreneurship, it's like your mind, sorry, your mind and your capital are like your two biggest things. In the NFL, it is your mind, but it's also your body in a sense, which I think,
And there's a
yeah,
hard date on that.
yeah, that's tough. Have you looked at what you want to do afterwards?
Honestly, no. I mean, if I'm lucky enough to finish this out and make enough money, it'd be nice to be a stay-at-home dad, as corny as that sounds.
You're a fucking hell of a cook. I know that.
Yeah,
So
but I mean, if I had to get a job, I wouldn't be worried about working. I would be worried about enjoying showing up every day.
yeah.
Like, I could show up and play this sport for how much it ruins your body, and how much
Hmm.
you sacrifice for your family, and like that, the sacrifices, and your body is, you're compensated for that. Like, I look at, we're not compensated for our play, we're compensated for our sacrifices.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of players would do this for a lot less. Everyone hates to admit it just because they're like, oh no, I love the money, but like, I would do this for a lot less, because I
Hmm.
legitimately, like, I love the idea that I get to wake up and I get to go to work. I don't have to go to work.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, I get to walk into an NFL building every day and have fun. Like,
Hmm.
dude, we like sit and tell a joke before every O-line meeting. I love that. It's stupid jokes, like, just absolutely, like, dumb, but like, it's
Yeah.
part of what, like, it's just fun. It's like the little nuances. The
Yeah.
Man, when you're just freaking tired and you're sitting in the back, and then you know that everyone else is tired, everyone else is miserable together, and then you
Yeah.
just start laughing at somebody falling on the field, or like, it's
Yeah.
the simple stuff like that that just
Yeah.
makes this all bearable. And I maybe I'm a masochist, but I love the grind.
You may be. I think there's got to be some level of like mental instability if you're willing to hit someone that's like that big. Like,
Yeah.
like I remember whenever I was playing rugby, and we got to play like South Africa and those guys. I remember those guys were running at me and they hit me, and I was like, no, nope. No, I don't think that guy looks mentally unstable and he enjoyed that and I did not. And so that dude, honestly, that's when I sat there. I remember, I have that, I don't know if remember, but I have like a cut next to my eye or whatever.
Hmm.
I got I got kneed in the face by a France player and he
Yeah.
scored. I was on the goal line. So you want to beef up next to a goal line. He comes over, knees me in the face, just totally bulldozes me, scores the try like on my face essentially. And I'm laying in the try zone looking up at the sky. And I have this vivid memory of just nothing complex, just no, no, this is not for me, dude. And,
Well, I had that same experience 2 years ago when I tried to return an NFL kick,
oh my
and
God, Lucas.
I got knocked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I realized I can never. How, like, everyone's like, "Oh, how does a ball carrier not see that wide open hole?" Or how does, like, the receiver not know to cut up under my block?
Yeah.
I got the ball and I had zero vision, and I got knocked, like, asleep on the field. Took a nap. See you guys next week.
I
So
remember
yeah,
watching
I
that and watching replays of it, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, let's say I'm on kickoff and I see Lucas catch the ball. My immediate thought is, oh God. Like, oh, is a
see
big person.
that's what I'm thinking too, running the ball, but like the three dudes, granted
Yeah,
it was three dudes that hit me, they
dude,
didn't even flinch.
full
They
force,
ran like
full
those. Okay,
force.
the craziest people in the world are people who are on kickoff in the NFL,
Yeah,
because you have to get to this really weird spot to run full speed down the field, knowing you're going to run full speed into another guy
yep,
to defeat him and then make a tackle.
yep,
Like, hey, why doesn't everybody get 40 yards in between each other? Now the new rules, people are still running back, and it's still big
yeah.
collisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Let me
Dude,
let me just keep my guy about a yard in front of me.
you like the close quarters, the trench
Yeah,
work. Yeah, you
yeah,
can see them coming at least. They're a little
yeah,
bigger, but
yeah. They don't run as fast.
yeah, not as much build up. That's
Yeah.
um. Well, let's see. I guess one of the things I wanted to ask you is, what do you see as success? There's
Mm,
entrepreneurs who, want to succeed in certain ways financially. People talk about, passive income. I've talked to some other people who said, they wanted to build a almost like a complex or multiple homes for their family and relatives to come. And
mhm.
that was their pinnacle of like what they wanted to do. So what would you say is like success for you?
Um, I mean, I gotta admit, I selfishly looked up the answer on per definition. Um, I don't know if that's like maybe the simple football player in me, but you know, it's it, the simple definition is the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. Um, I think that's kind of a watered down answer. I think
Sure.
it's such a tough question to answer,
Yeah.
because I think everyone looks at me and they see me as a success. They see me as a kid who started in high school, went to Duke University, had a good career, not a great one, not a bad one, just good. The team did well, but personally didn't have a ton of accolades, and then get to the NFL and try out. Now I'm, a starter on a second contract. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I am a by definition stamped success. I feel like from an outside perspective. But my version of success is a little different. It's got a little more human value, I guess. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
I should say, is that true success in my opinion, or when I'm old and gray, is that what I did to make a living or whatever, who I became or where I'm at, I did it the right way,
Mm-hmm.
and I made people better. Like, I think I think so many people in this world get caught up in this sense of, um, I'm going to do what's best for me, and I hope it works out for you. And if it doesn't, I'm going to still do what's best for me. And you know, that's great and fine. There's a lot of people who do well doing that, but maybe I'm a little too brainwashed with team dynamics and making it in the NFL. But like, when everyone does what's best for the whole,
Mm-hmm.
I think, or does what's best for themselves, but doesn't step on people as they go by, or doesn't, you know, kind of burn people as they go,
Mm-hmm.
that everyone's better for it. Everyone feels a part. Like, I want people to feel a part of my success. Like, I want you to feel a part of my success, because you and your family were very integral to who I am. Like that's how I see things, I guess. I don't know if I've like answered that, or if I've opened up a can of worms. Um, but like I think success is, success to me is like happiness. Like what makes
Hmm.
you happy? It can be such a different, you know, such a spectrum of answers. But like
Hmm.
I don't look at success as a numbers, as a where I got to in life. I look to it as who did I impact, and were they better for either coming and leaving my life, or were they better for coming, staying, and enjoying the ride?
Yeah. That's, I think that definition for you is part of the reason why you've gotten to where you are. You know what I mean? Because I read a lot or watch a lot of videos on self-learning, and they always talk about the people that enjoy the journey will get further than the ones that enjoy the end. And it
Yep.
sounds like your success is more so ongoing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like, what can I do with what I have to, obviously I want to do well personally, and I want to, have, be acknowledged for that, but also what can I do for the people around me? How can I redirect some of that to have someone else benefit as well?
Yeah.
Um, and I think I totally believe in the pathway, or in the path than the
Hmm.
destination. And you have to, because once you get there, what else do you do?
Yeah.
If your only goal, which it likely was a goal, to get to the NFL as a starter, that was, I'm
Correct.
sure, a dream. But
It was
it's
definitely a dream.
it's like, now that you're here, what do you do now? You know what I mean? And it's like, holy shit, I achieved my goal. What how do I, what's my
Hmm.
next goal, or how do I build on to this, or what do I do now?
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's so crazy to like sit back and think about the journey, because like, you know people who don't know me, and you know me extremely well, know me very well for so long, like it's like weird for me to think of myself as like an NFL player slash like somebody who's like, people think, not celebrity, but people think somebody like that I'm cool because of what I do,
Yeah.
or I'm cool because of, I'm associated with the Shield, the NFL Shield, or associated
Yeah.
with the Packers G or the Green Bay, But like at the end of the day, like, me as like a kid who went through, puberty and aging through high school, and navigating a world,
Hmm.
trying to, like, you actually probably saw me more than anyone navigate trying to find my masculine self, growing up without a dad, and your family with the, you know, all the alpha males that was in your family, and honestly, alpha female.
Yeah, she is the Mama T, is the ultimate alpha
Yeah.
female.
But it's just like, I guess you see this character arc, and you kind of get to see the path, and that's why, like, I hope people like you can see my definition of success is like, you're just as important as me where I'm at, as some of the other people in my life,
Hmm.
like over the summer when we did my wet, like those, you know, those people were there for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just so weird for me to even sit back and think that I'm a success just because I'm associated with something. But like, I want to be a success because of my path, like you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
I've enjoyed my path as I'm going, and people are enjoying my path as well.
Well, and what was something that was very cool for me that I didn't even realize until the moment was over, was I was explaining to someone, who you were, because I was talking to someone and they really enjoyed football, and I was like, yeah, I'm a Packers fan, and they're like, well, why? I was like, well, to be honest, I didn't really grow up with a huge motivation for the Packers. I liked the Buccaneers, but now, my best friend Lucas plays for them, and he does really well. Number 62, he's, and he was really like, oh wow, da da da, and they were saying all these things, and they were almost talking to you about you like a celebrity. You know what I mean? They're like, wow, he's like famous. And I was like, Lucas is a guy, yes, he is that. And, he should be fucking well respected for what he does. But he's also a guy that he'll go to a bar and he'll get a Bud Light. And
Yeah.
like, and that to me was almost like, it's not like a big thing to say that, I don't think. But like that to me is like, he's not a guy that's going to go out and like impress everybody or buy out the bar or like do stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure he could, but that's not his style. Like he's not just going to go and throw it in your face, because I don't think, even though he has it, he's not like, I don't think it's changed you to the core. Like, maybe some lifestyle things are a bit different, but like, to me, you're still Lucas. And that to me is something that I think you've done really well with, almost like your porcupine strategy. That's just been
Yeah.
your core that you've kept with and you've always done,
And
so.
it's there's a lot of people who struggle with that. And,
Yeah.
luckily I've had good friends who, I'm super fortunate that you ended up in Portland for really those years when I could have taken that step.
Yeah.
Like I could have gone, but like I had somebody from literally who I met first time at like the track meet when we were what, like fifth, sixth grade, whatever that was. And it was
Yeah.
like, hey, you want to be friends? And you were
We were
like, yeah,
playing
you want to come
shot
over to my
put
house?
together. Yeah.
Yeah. You were like,
Yeah.
you want to come over to my house? And I was like, sure. Like that is something as simple as that. Like somebody truly, you're friends because you're just friends. Like
Yeah.
that's all you know about that relationship. And like to have that in a time where I could have been like, oh, I don't know anybody here. I'm an NFL player. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just moving out here with my now girlfriend at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But, now she's my wife, luckily. Didn't scare her away. But it's like it's cool to have that. Like, and that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. This whole success is a journey. It's a gradual process of like kind of what you're saying, the point, sticking true to your core values.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's going to be some things that push and press against you, and you got to kind of push them out,
Yeah.
whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. Hopefully the good ones make you better just as the bad ones do, but like
Yeah.
you keep this arc of continually getting better.
Well, and I got, we are up on an hour, but I got one more question for you, just because I wanted
Yeah.
to know for my own personal reasons. So, whenever we had met, I don't think you or I had quite defined ourselves as people just yet, or what kind of men we wanted to be. And I remember I didn't know your story with Coach Gore for the longest time. But I saw your sophomore year, you became a totally different person. Not in necessarily your attitude, but your just physical presence on the field. I saw like it went from, Lucas is a big guy. If he gets mad, watch out kind of thing, to now it was like every snap, it was like, please do not come my way. Like in any snap of the game, do not come after me. And, I wanted to talk a bit about in entrepreneurship, there's, let's say you're dealing with vendors, or let's say you're dealing with employees or working with employees, or let's say you're working with investors maybe. And a lot of people talk about you can't be successful unless you screw people over, which I think is an extremely negative way to look at it. I see more so that you are on a path and you're going to make that path. And it's not about, putting the other people down necessarily, but it's more so about who are you going to be in that moment. And the only piece I wanted to bring up, because you had said it earlier, was like when you look at someone that's across from you on the field, it looks like you're trying to, dominate that person or win every match. And if you could just talk about like, the the pieces you had to overcome to mentally do that, and maybe if there's like a mental struggle, because I know in your core you're like a very nice person. And I wouldn't have originally pegged you to be able to like do that to people, but I don't think it comes from a negative place.
Yeah, man, that's probably the toughest question I think I've ever, like, why I truly play the way I do. Um, I think it like honestly, I think it boils down to like wanting to truly feel like I did like my job. Like I like not it's it's like feeling like I'm good at something, and like this is what like I feel like I was like when God created me, like I truly believe God created me to be a football player. Like my build, like like how I'm here, like let's just do a quick map. Single parent kid, two girls in the house, nothing really big football. Hey, I had some family members big into football, like, you know, couldn't really figure out my masculinity growing up, like just didn't have that. Like I cried a lot. Like I was a big softie. Like, you know, it was this switch. I feel like Coach Core challenged me as a man. It was
Yeah.
like if you're gonna do this, let's do it. Like if we're gonna go all in, like you need to be a man. And like here's what a man does. A man sets his expectations and lives up to them. A man says he's gonna do something and he does it. If he fails, he learns from it and tries to keep going at it. And it's like I feel like that was at a very pivotal point in my life too, where it was like I was trying to figure out who I wanted to be as a boy turning into a man. And like without the without having a father, it's like I don't have that role. Like I've got, people I picked from, like your dad's quiet strength. Like
Hmm.
that's I always thought that was such a like he was such a stoic man, the way he handled
Yeah.
himself. There's some of my other mentors, Steve, who officiated our wedding. Steve embodied what I thought was this love that like, you know, I didn't think men gave, but like he gave it freely and lovingly, but it wasn't at a soft,
Hmm.
way. And it's like I felt like when I stepped onto the football field, I could control how I was perceived, and I could control who you saw play in, play out.
Hmm.
And it's like I made up my mind, you're gonna see a tough, uh, you know, tough SOB. Like you if you beat me, like it's because you beat me
Hmm.
by every ounce of my God-given talent and my effort. And like that's I think that's what's kept me in the NFL so long. I think that's what's kept me on my career is like I ended up making a great friend, Justin, who you met. And when he came here, like two kids who had never have met each other, but like just I guess my disposition, we went out to eat and like became friends, and things start, and we're directly competing in camp. Like we shouldn't be friends in the eyes of the NFL, but like because we're directly competing, but like I wanted him to do his best for the mere fact of if you're going to beat me, I want you to beat me at your best.
Hmm.
And so like that's how I treat each play, because like I don't want to lose. Like I've lost plays because I was lazy. Like and I've lost and I'm more mad at myself. I know that guy didn't beat me. But like each and every play, I want you to feel like you're either exhausted or you had to give everything because I challenged you. Like I challenged you as a man, as a person. Like football, what I do is moving another person against their will. Like that D lineman is there and his coach tells him, don't move.
Yeah.
You stay right there. Or in a pass pro, you go through him. And my
Yeah.
job is to make sure that he doesn't succeed.
Yeah.
And it's like it's this and I hope this answers the question, but it's this like deep rooted issue. And like you have these moments in football where you get to show your character. And it was like that time, it was like what you saw that sophomore year. I
Mm-hmm.
was able to dictate who and what my character was on the field. And like it's a very controlled environment. In each play, I can say, this is me, this is who I am.
Yeah.
I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of the name on the back of my jersey. And this is my product. So that's the I have very long answers.
No, I think that was a great answer. I mean, I think it's something I've always wondered just growing up with you, just because like, I mean, even in college, we were talking about you pancaking people, and now you're in the NFL and people are getting Lucased, you know, and it's like, at what point, like, I guess Mike, it was like, where does it come from? And on the entrepreneur side, like I had said, a lot of people think it's negative. And it's like every play, you're looking at someone and like they have a will and you have a will. And whose will, or force is going to be stronger. And it's not as much, putting them down in a negative way. It's that your plan is better, your work
Yeah.
ethic is better, and you're just going to win, not at
And
necessarily the loss of another, but you're doing what you're going to do.
hopefully ultimately that the player against me, like as the game goes on, he gets better, starts playing against me better. And then it makes me
Yep.
like that's such the cool part about playing at this level is you're playing against guys, who are amazing
Hmm.
and who have proven things. And then I'm a guy who doesn't have anything proven, not a lot of film, and I come in and I'm giving you everything. And it's like you see guys' games change when they play me because they realize like I'm not, I'm not just gonna give you a free pass just because you're a
Yeah.
potential great player. And it's like with any business, just because you're proven and you've sold, X amount of product and you're a millionaire doesn't mean that the next business venture that you go to invest in is going to work because of
Hmm.
what you did prior. Still got to do the legwork, still got to do everything. And, I think it's just a blue collar, do things right mentality. Like as corny and as simple as it sounds, but like it's okay to work hard. It's okay to be
Yeah.
good to people. And it's okay to enjoy like things that are hard. Like it's
Yeah.
okay to work, like enjoy working hard. Like that's just as good of a trade as being honest or being truthful or, being kind.
Well, I think we'll wrap it up there, Lucas. I really appreciate your time, man. It's a thing I'm starting up, so I'm glad you kind of took a risk with me, and I really
Always,
appreciate your time. Um,
always.
so I think I'll end it here, but we can stay on for a minute if you're down.
Yeah.
Just